Abridged version of Yuval Noah Harari's book, Nexus. Our species is called Homo sapiens, the wise human. But are we really? In Nexus, Yuval Noah Harari explores how humanity has accumulated immense power, but not the wisdom to use it responsibly. From artificial intelligence to climate change, we are on the brink of crises of our own making. Key point 1. What is information? Information builds societies, organizes governments, and shapes economies. It is a key tool for cooperation, but also for manipulation and control. Any element can become information if it is given meaning, influencing thoughts and decisions. From oral stories to databases, humanity has perfected its management of information. However, many social structures are based on shared fictions such as religion or money. Their power depends on collective belief. The digital age has multiplied access to information, but also chaos and misinformation. It is not enough to accumulate data, but to interpret it correctly. The struggle for control of information defines the future, pitting those who manipulate data against those who seek transparency and decentralization. Who controls the narrative, and what impact will it have on society? Key point 2. Stories and the construction of reality. Humanity is organized around stories, not objective facts. Myths, religions, and ideologies have enabled mass cooperation and the creation of institutions based on shared beliefs. A powerful narrative can unite millions or justify power structures without a physical basis, such as money. Stories create identity and connections between strangers, but also divisions. The us versus them narrative has driven wars, genocides, and exclusions. In the digital age, stories spread faster, fragmenting reality into ideological bubbles. Algorithms reinforce beliefs rather than generating consensus, eroding truth. Information turned into narrative can mobilize or manipulate masses. In a world where fiction can be instantaneously manufactured and disseminated, distinguishing reality from manipulation is a crucial challenge. Key point 3. Documents and the power of bureaucracy. Documents have been key to structuring societies, enabling organization beyond individual memory. From ancient censuses to digital systems, bureaucracy has sustained empires, economies, and modern states. More than just records, documents are tools of power. Whoever controls them controls society. Without them, property, credit, and justice would collapse. Yet bureaucracy can become rigid and oppressive, prioritizing rules over efficiency. Today, physical documents have been replaced by databases and algorithms, automating key decisions. This has increased surveillance and control, creating opaque and unchangeable systems. Digital bureaucracy no longer just manages society, but shapes it, reducing citizens' ability to question it. The crucial question is not just who controls the documentation, but who programs the algorithms that govern daily life. Key point 4. The illusion of infallibility. Human institutions seek to minimize errors, but history shows that information is never infallible. Religions, states, and science have made serious mistakes, often without acknowledging them. The resistance to accepting failures has led to collective disasters. Pseudoscientific beliefs, erroneous economic theories, and bad military decisions have shown how error infiltrates all areas. Today, technology and artificial intelligence amplify this illusion of infallibility, presenting biased algorithms as objective truths. The real danger arises when society stops questioning its systems, reinforcing unquestionable dogmas. Without self-correcting mechanisms, errors persist and worsen. Democracy, science, and a free press have tried to create spaces to correct failures, but their fragility makes them vulnerable. In a world of accelerated information, the key is not to avoid mistakes, but to recognize and correct them before they become catastrophes. Key point 5. Democracy and totalitarianism in the digital age. Democracy and totalitarianism depend on information, but the digital age has unbalanced this relationship. Democracy seeks debate and participation, but data manipulation and disinformation have eroded its ability to function effectively. Social media prioritizes emotional content over rational arguments, while authoritarian regimes have perfected digital surveillance. Cameras, algorithms, and databases enable unprecedented control, suppressing resistance before it arises. The greatest danger is not the sudden destruction of democracy, but its slow erosion into a system controlled by governments and corporations. Citizens have traded privacy for convenience without questioning the use of their data. If society does not demand transparency and technological regulation, democracy could become a facade, while an invisible totalitarianism, based on algorithms and surveillance, takes control of the future. Key point 6. Artificial intelligence as a new global player. Artificial intelligence is not just another tool in humanity's technological evolution. It is a new global player that is transforming the structure of power, economics, politics, and culture. Unlike previous technologies, which expanded humans' ability to process information, AI is able to analyze data, make decisions, and even generate new ideas without human intervention. For the first time, humanity is creating systems that can operate autonomously, and that, in some cases, surpass the understanding of their own creators. What distinguishes AI from other tools is its ability to learn and evolve. Printing presses, telephones, and computers are passive technologies that require explicit instructions. Instead, AI algorithms can improve their performance on their own, identifying patterns, optimizing processes, and finding solutions that humans would not have conceived. This capability has enabled impressive advances in medicine, science, economics, and communication, but it also poses unprecedented risks. One of the biggest challenges of AI is its lack of transparency. As these systems become more sophisticated, their decision-making processes become harder to understand, even for the experts who designed them. More and more responsibility is being delegated to algorithms that determine what news appears on social media, how financial resources are distributed, which candidates are selected for a job, and even who receives priority medical care. But when an AI makes the wrong decision, who is responsible? Control of AI has become one of the main sources of power in the 21st century. States, corporations, and organizations are racing to develop and own the most advanced AI, because whoever masters this technology will have an advantage over their rivals in every field. From economics to warfare, AI is redefining the rules of the game. Companies with the most sophisticated algorithms can manipulate markets with a speed unattainable by human operators, while armies are integrating autonomous systems capable of identifying and attacking targets without human intervention. The advance of AI also puts job stability at risk. Millions of workers around the world could be replaced by automated systems, not only in mechanical tasks, but in jobs that were previously considered exclusive to humans, such as law, medicine, and artistic creativity. This creates a paradox. While AI increases efficiency and productivity, it also threatens to displace a large part of the population from the labor market, causing an unprecedented economic and social crisis. Furthermore, AI can be used as a tool of surveillance and control. Authoritarian regimes have begun to implement facial recognition systems, voice analysis, and behavior monitoring to supervise their citizens in a way that was impossible just a few decades ago. In a world where every conversation, every transaction, and every movement can be recorded and analyzed in real time, privacy is becoming an obsolete concept. The problem is not just that AI can be used for manipulation or surveillance, but that its development is occurring without clear regulation. While some argue that artificial intelligence should be accessible to all as a public good, others warn that its uncontrolled use could lead to catastrophic consequences. From the manipulation of elections to the collapse of financial systems, the potential impact of poorly managed AI is immense. Humanity is at a crossroads. It can choose to use AI to improve people's lives, or allow it to become an out-of-control force that reinforces inequalities, concentrates power, and threatens global stability. The challenge is not only to develop more advanced AI, but to ensure that these technologies are transparent, ethical, and regulated in ways that benefit all of humanity rather than serving a few privileged actors. Key point 7. Hyperconnectivity and its consequences. Hyperconnectivity has eliminated barriers, allowing communication and access to information in real time. However, it has also generated new vulnerabilities, making society more dependent on fragile and manipulable digital systems. Social networks have democratized information, but they have also fragmented reality into ideological bubbles. Disinformation spreads easily, weakening rational debate and polarizing societies. In the economy, digitalization has optimized processes, but it has also created monopolies and increased the risk of cyberattacks. In addition, mass surveillance allows governments and companies to analyze human behavior, influencing decisions without people realizing it. The challenge is not only to manage hyperconnectivity, but to learn to live with it without losing privacy or critical thinking. Without balance, society could become a slave to immediacy, where the speed of information matters more than the truth. Key point 8. The fallibility of inorganic networks. Digital networks and artificial intelligence promise precision and objectivity, but they are far from infallible. Designed with human data, they inherit biases, amplify errors, and can make decisions without supervision, generating inequalities and discrimination. Their complexity makes them opaque and uncontrollable. Algorithms determine jobs, court rulings, and what information is seen on social media, creating an invisible power disguised as neutrality. In addition, errors in automated systems can trigger economic crises or collapses in critical infrastructure. Inorganic networks are also manipulable. Governments and corporations shape public perception by filtering information and reinforcing agendas. Believing that more data means better decisions is an illusion. Without context, information can be as dangerous as ignorance. The challenge is not to reject technology, but to control it. Humanity must ensure that these networks serve people and do not become invisible and unchangeable tools of oppression. Key point 9. Democracy in crisis, the age of disinformation. Modern democracy is based on the idea of informed citizens making rational decisions. However, in the digital age, information has ceased to be a reliable resource and has become a battlefield. Disinformation, data manipulation, and fragmentation of the truth have weakened the foundations of democratic systems, putting their survival at risk. Throughout history, control of information has been a tool of power. Kings censored philosophers, religions suppressed heretical texts, and totalitarian regimes rewrote history to suit themselves. However, the current problem is different. It is not about absolute censorship, but about the flood of false information designed to confuse, divide, and paralyze collective decision-making. Social media and digital platforms have amplified this crisis. Algorithms do not prioritize the veracity of information, but rather its ability to generate interaction. The most emotional, scandalous, or polarizing content goes viral more easily, reinforcing pre-existing beliefs and reducing society's ability to find a consensus based on facts. In this context, rational debate is replaced by emotional attacks, scientific evidence is discarded in favor of conspiracy theories, and moderate discourse is drowned out by extreme narratives. Disinformation not only affects the perception of reality, it directly disrupts democratic processes. Elections have been manipulated through surgically targeted disinformation campaigns designed to exploit the fears and prejudices of specific segments of the population. Extreme personalization of information means that each citizen receives a different version of reality based on their digital habits, making it impossible to establish a common basis of facts on which to debate. Governments have reacted in different ways to this crisis. Some democracies have attempted to regulate digital platforms to limit the spread of fake news, but this opens the risk of censorship and state control over information. Others have opted for inaction, allowing disinformation to flow freely in the hope that citizens will learn to discern the truth for themselves. Meanwhile, authoritarian regimes have taken advantage of the confusion to discredit any information that contradicts their official version, presenting democracy as a chaotic and inefficient system. One of the greatest dangers of disinformation is the erosion of trust in institutions. When citizens stop believing in the media, in science, or in the electoral system itself, democracy loses its legitimacy. In this vacuum of trust, societies can become vulnerable to populist leaders who promise to restore order by eliminating dissent and absolute control of information. The problem is not just the existence of false information, but the inability to distinguish it from the truth. In a world where everything can be questioned, and each person can have their own reality, democracy risks becoming ungovernable. The solution is not to restrict information, but to educate the population in critical thinking, demand transparency in data management, and develop systems that prioritize veracity over virality. The future of democracy depends on society's ability to regain control over information. Without a basic consensus on reality, politics becomes a game of manipulation and competing narratives, where truth no longer matters, and only the power of whoever controls the most compelling story remains. Key point 10. Algorithmic totalitarianism and the end of freedom. Totalitarianism in the 21st century does not need armies in the streets or mass propaganda on billboards and radios. In the digital age, control is exercised in a more subtle and effective way, through algorithms that monitor every action, predict every move, and shape the reality of citizens without them even noticing. Surveillance is no longer an abstract threat, but an omnipresent network of data, cameras, and artificial intelligence that, in the hands of states and corporations, has the power to override individual autonomy. Totalitarian regimes of the past relied on networks of informants, secret police, and bureaucratic systems that collected data manually. Today, that work is done by algorithms designed to process information on an unimaginable scale. Artificial intelligence is capable of analyzing behavioral patterns, detecting dissent, and predicting potential threats with an accuracy impossible for any human security agency. In this new system, there is no need to ban books or imprison opponents en masse. It is enough to alter the information a person has access to or limit their ability to interact in the digital space. Technology has turned surveillance into an invisible and automatic operation. Authoritarian governments have implemented facial recognition systems on every street, biometric databases to identify citizens, and social behavior scores to determine who deserves privileges and who should be punished. In this model, obedience is no longer enforced by force, but by digital incentives and punishments, restricted access to services, deletion of social media accounts, travel bans, or financial blocks. Democracies are not exempt from this danger. While they theoretically protect individual liberties, many have adopted mass surveillance tools under the justification of security and efficiency. Government databases store every purchase, every conversation, and every location of their citizens. Large technology corporations compile more detailed behavioral profiles than any intelligence agency. Algorithms determine which jobs are assigned, what credits are granted, and what information is visible on the internet. Algorithmic totalitarianism is not imposed by force, but by convenience. Society has agreed to give up privacy in exchange for convenience, without understanding the implications of this exchange. Systems have been built where citizens no longer have control over their data, and where the most important decisions of their lives are made by programming codes that no one can question. In this context, freedom is redefined. It is no longer the absence of physical oppression, but the ability to act outside the invisible control of digital networks. The problem is not just surveillance, but manipulation. Through the control of information, it is possible to shape opinions, influence elections, and alter the perception of reality, without the population being aware of it. The propaganda of the past was crude and obvious. The propaganda of the present is personalized and subtle. Algorithms designed to maximize social media engagement end up promoting extremist discourse, amplifying social divisions, and weakening democratic cohesion. The risk is that humanity becomes accustomed to this model without questioning it. As in classical totalitarianisms, the main strategy of control is not direct repression, but the generation of fear and conformity. When citizens know that every action is monitored and that any deviation from the official discourse can bring consequences, self-censorship becomes the norm. In a world where surveillance is total, dissent ceases to exist not because it is repressed, but because people prefer not to risk expressing what they think. The only way to avoid this future is to regain control over technology before it is too late, regulating algorithms, making data collection transparent, and decentralizing digital power are essential steps to prevent humanity from falling into an invisible dictatorship, where freedom is no longer suppressed by walls and guns, but by lines of code. Key point 11. The Silicon Curtain, a fragmented world. The world is no longer divided by physical walls, but by digital barriers that separate societies into spheres of technological influence. The Silicon Curtain is fragmenting the global internet and pitting nations against each other in a new war for dominance over artificial intelligence, data, and telecommunications. Some powers promote open networks, while others impose restrictions, creating information bubbles where citizens live in different digital realities. Geopolitics has moved into the technological realm, with sanctions and blockades replacing traditional conflicts. This fragmentation affects not only countries but also individuals. Governments and corporations control information and privacy fades. In addition, the digital divide threatens global cooperation on challenges such as climate change and economic stability. The challenge of the 21st century is not only who will dominate technology, but how to prevent it from becoming a tool of confrontation rather than a bridge for humanity. Conclusion. Nexus reveals how humanity has accumulated immense power without the wisdom to manage it, creating a world where technology, disinformation, and artificial intelligence threaten to spiral out of control. Information, far from being an objective reflection of reality, has been used as a tool of manipulation and control, eroding democracy and giving way to a digital totalitarianism based on algorithmic surveillance. Hyperconnectivity has fragmented the perception of truth, weakening global cooperation in an increasingly polarized world. The Silicon Curtain divides humanity into technological blocks with opposing interests, making it difficult to respond collectively to existential crises such as climate change or regulating AI. The greatest challenge of the 21st century is not just creating new technologies, but ensuring that they serve humanity and not the other way around. Without profound change, the future could be governed by inorganic networks that spiral out of control. Get the book at planetalibro.com.